Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is your not so friendly survival show enjoyer and amateur critic here to talk about Island 2. I'll be criticizing, judging, ranking, and nitpicking all of the 4 performances that we saw for the second mission of Island 2. So the girls were each divided into 2 groups for their respective buildings. So we had in Island 2 groups, and on the ground we had also 2 performances. Without further ado, we begin.
Hey boy.
Unsurprisingly, in last place, we have... I'm going to be talking a lot about the song choices throughout the video because overall they were just bad. But I was expecting a lot from like ooh-ahh because I think out of all the songs, this was the only one that was good for a survival show because it's trainee friendly. I mean, cute concepts I think are usually easier for someone to perform because you don't have to understand the song. You just can kind of smile and like be happy. And I think if that shows throughout the song, unless you smile like a maniac, I think you're gonna be fine. Obviously, acting cute is not for everyone, but if I was there, I would definitely want to choose this song out of all of them because it's easy for you to show a little bit of talent, but also the dance isn't super hard, the notes aren't super high, and you still leave a lot of impact because it's a really high energy song. So I think this is the best song someone could pick. So I had high expectations. I was expecting something like Yes So Yes from Girls Planet, which, you know, really left an impact, or Pretty You from Girls Planet as well. Cute, energetic songs always, they might not be the best, like in terms of performance or whatever, but they always leave a little bit of impact. But when I tell you this didn't leave anything, after watching it, it felt like I didn't even see anything because nothing was really memorable. I don't know how they managed to make the song feel empty, but it felt really empty. There was no energy from the girls, and I see them doing a little bit of stuff here and there on the stage. A lot of girls prepared a lot of facial expressions, and I saw that, but it wasn't really coming through. I'm not sure if it was the background, the outfits, if it was them. I do think that it's because the team synergy wasn't really there. So like the girls wanted to do well individually, but as a team they didn't have much chemistry going on, so it felt a little forced maybe and just lacking. Well, that was pretty bad. Obviously we had standouts. I mean, Yuri carried. She is the epitome of cutie. She was very stable, the perfect center. But we had other girls who did really well as well. I thought Yuiko did a pretty good job as well with the energy. Yuna also did a pretty good job with the expressions, and she killed the dance break itself. I think the dance break was really good, and it wasn't highlighted in the episode, but on the full version, the dance break was really good. Well, she did mess up the most important part, which is like the highlights. It fell a little flat on both the vocal and the dance part when she was doing the iconic Momo move. But her dance break was pretty good, and she had so many good facial expressions throughout the entire performance that I think it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was the highlight of the performance. If she did a good job in that specific highlight moment, it would have probably elevated the performance a lot more. And, you know, I was expecting more from that, but it was bad. It was bad. It was a very weak performance. I was expecting a lot more, especially from Ji-yoon, because when you can show your versatility and when you can show that you can do different concepts, it's very good. And her being an older trainee and also being a vocalist, I thought she would be able to do a lot more than what she did. Even her vocals felt very delicate, when I think she should have come a lot more stronger. The whole time I was listening, I was just scared because it felt like her voice was gonna break. This is not what we want in this song. No, here we want energy, we want confidence, we want more in-your-face vocals. So I think the way she was singing was definitely not conveying what the song needed. Plus, her not being super immersed or not being super cute. Like, she had her cute moments here and there. I felt like she would do really good if she was expressing feel special or even fancy, which has a little bit of a sad side to it. But like ooh-ahh, that wasn't it at all. Someone should have told her just smile.
Smile.
Keep a big ass smile on your face and you're gonna be fine. And she didn't smile.
And I told you to smile. Why don't you smile?
During the episodes, she said she had a completely different mindset from when she first performed to the performance day itself, but it really didn't show. And I can't say anything to defend her at this performance because it was just not it. It wasn't it at all. I mean, she hit her high notes, but she really pulled down the team's energy. She did have the majority of the parts and she was one of the main performers. So her not giving the energy, and I think the other girls weren't feeling as well. It didn't even feel messy, but it just felt empty, whereas it should be giving me energy. Why am I searching for energy when this performance is supposed to be giving me? In this performance, I do think that while watching the fan cams, you can see a lot more from the performance than the performance itself. But you know, how much does that count? Watching the fan cams, who I thought did a really good job was Chaeyeon. She didn't have a lot of parts during the performance, but she was the most immersed when I went to check out the fan cams. So her fan cam was really, really solid. The other girls, there were some moments where they seemed lost on stage, and that was really bad. That's definitely not a look you want to have. But Chin, I think she did a pretty good job with her immersion and how she portrayed the song. I would say she did an even better job than Gyuri in terms of immersion, but Gyuri obviously had so much more to her plate. She was singing, she was being a center, and she was by no means bad. But the performance itself, when you watch the full camera, I really thought they were gonna give me something, because cheering for the underdogs is kind of inevitable, but them losing was even more inevitable because this performance was just not good. On to ranking for this performance, I would give it a 1 out of 5. I think they could have done so much more. The vocals fell short, the energy wasn't really there, and neither was the performance in third place, but there's a huge wall of the difference between like ooh-ahh and our third place, Bad Boy. For me, especially, this song had really big shoes to fill, not only from Red Velvet themselves, but we saw a really good performance from Bad Boy in Are You Next, which had many different circumstances. It was an all-vocal team, there were only 3 people, but still, they killed it when they performed it. So I thought maybe there's a chance that they're going to do a really good job here. I don't think Bad Boy is a really good song for you to have in a survival show, especially if you have a big group. I think it would be fine if you got this song for it to be like a vocal performance where you need to add harmonies and you do high notes and whatever. But as a performance for 6 girls, when nobody was eliminated yet, you have bad trainees, I think it's a really hard song for you to digest and to leave an impression. I mean, you need to be very comfortable with it to perform it well, because it's not a song that you can overdo and get away with it. For example, like ooh-ahh, if you overdid cuteness and you bring in too much energy, it doesn't really matter. But here, it's like a really fine line between no energy and just enough to make the song. So it's something that you need to feel really well. Because I think it was kind of hard for them to pull it off well, with them not being the top trainees, nor the top vocalist, nor anything of sorts. But as always, we have our standouts. I mean, Fuko as the center, she looked stunning. Her vocals were really good, and she did amazing overall. She really felt the song, and she knew what she had to do all the time. She was just really into it and very professional. She had a really good reading of the song and an understanding of the performance. I feel like she had it calculated in her head, like, okay, the camera's here, I'm gonna do this and that. But it didn't feel like she was overthinking it, which is really important. Jiwon also did a great job. Her facial expressions were there, she sang well, and I think the energy she brought was really the energy needed. So I think those two were really the pillars of this performance. Those 2 girls, they did so amazing that it just elevated the performance and made them stand out a lot more in comparison to like ooh-ahh. Everyone else in the group was either unnoticeable or, in the case of the main vocalist, kind of unbearable to watch, because the main vocalist was really bad. She couldn't hit the notes, and I mean, it was very apparent, and it disrupted the flow of the performance. But the performance itself wasn't like super good to begin with. You know, it would have been decent if the main vocalist hit the notes, but I mean, the main vocalist seems so scared as well. I mean, if you got the notes wrong, that happens. Like, it sucks in a survival show, and if you keep getting the notes wrong, it's just awful for you as a viewer. But I think it's even more awful if you just look defeated after that. I mean, you're still here, you're still performing, so try to keep it up, try to be better. Have the error go unnoticeable, because maybe it wasn't as bad as you think. In this case, it was really bad. And her face did show, and she just seemed really done with the performance, so that wasn't really nice. But the outfits were great. We had a discovery, I'm gonna say between quotes, of Yeon. While I was watching it for the first time, I thought she looked so much like Yujin from Zero Base One, and that was the only thing I could think of while I was watching her. And then she had a whole arc in the episode, and with the whole arc of them saying like, oh my gosh, she's doing so much better. I just cringed. I'm gonna be honest, I cringed. I thought her performance was still very stiff. I think she has a long way to go to even be called a decent performer, because her performance wasn't bad, but everything felt really forced, and it doesn't really come naturally to her because obviously she just started. From what I understood, her training period is really small. When they focused on the facial expressions and how good she was doing, I just kind of hated it, because when I was watching it for the first time, I didn't see with the episode, and I thought she was kind of bland. Like, I thought she wasn't doing much. And I thought, oh, maybe it's because the bangs are covering her eyebrows, but she really looked like Eugene. That was my impression. But after the episode that they really focused on that, I just cringed every time she came on the screen. I'm really sensitive about like facial expressions and stuff. So if you're trying too hard, and I know that you're trying too hard, it really makes me like, ugh. Like forced lip biting and all that stuff. I'm really sensitive to these kind of things, especially with male performers. When you're trying to be sexy, it makes me really cringe. Everyone was so shocked with her performance and praising her so much that I think the original must have been so bad, because I didn't like her facial expressions. But that also could just be me, because I'm sure there are a lot of people that see Yeon as a girl with a lot of potential and that she's doing a great job as it is now. But I really don't see much to her. I do think she needs a lot more training before debuting. With all of that said, she's definitely not on my top 7, but we'll be seeing her debut most likely. Yes. The performance itself, there was not a lot of energy, and I couldn't really focus on the performance if I wasn't watching Fuko or Jiwon. I also love the way that Fuko finds every camera. Like, that was so professional of her. I love it when that happens, because especially in survival shows and as trainees, it's really hard for you to see the cameras and to know like exactly what time you need to look at which camera. But that really breaks the immersion if you're not finding the camera, or if you're looking somewhere else. Like, there were some shots that Jiwon was looking down at the camera, but they got the shot of her from the front, so it was like, why is she looking down? It doesn't make sense. And then her looking down made her seem like super sad, but then when she's looking at the camera, it makes sense, the gaze and stuff. So being able to spot the camera, look at the right camera, that's all very important for a good performance, especially for us and the judges that are watching through cameras and we're not watching live. And the other girls that I did mention the name, honestly, were very forgettable. Most of them looked scared of being there. Maybe it wouldn't have seemed so bad if we didn't have the comparison of Fuko that seemed super comfortable, but Fuko seemed super comfortable. Jiwon doing an amazing job. Everyone else looked like they would rather be somewhere else, and they sounded like they shouldn't be singing the song. So yeah, everyone else was kind of bland. I can't even criticize them because they didn't really show me anything. There's nothing to praise, nothing to criticize. They were just forgotten. So this is about Ling Ling, Nana, Yeon. Like, the only thing is because in the episode they put a lot of attention on her, and while I was watching, I thought she looked like Yujin. If they didn't put so much emphasis on the episode, I would also not talk about her so much. If I had to give this a score out of 5, I'd probably give this a 2, because it wasn't even average. I think they had a lot more to work on. I also understand that this is not a good song to showcase the talents that they have, because obviously not only are they not really talented vocalists or amazing performers, like, they're not Sogi. So it's hard to do a lot with Bad Boy. I think the only way for you to be amazing is if everyone in your team is a really good vocalist. Going off of like dance and energy alone for this song and not having good vocals doesn't work well. They won, and they would have won in my books as well. In second place, we had a big wall between like ooh-ahh and Bad Boy, and here we have a really big wall between Bad Boy and Whistle. This was a performance from Island, so the group was really well rounded, very talented. But I'm just gonna start off and say the performance felt very lacking. Was this because of the performance or the song itself? I'm not sure. First of all, Blackpink's songs is just really hard for you to do and for you to match the energy. is just really hard for girl trainees to pull off because they need to have a really distinct and specific energy about them. I haven't really seen a good Blackpink cover in female edition of a survival show. The song being from Blackpink is already a con, and I think just Whistle is really easy to fall flat, and that's what happened to them because none of them showed anything really distinguishable or spicy to give us the energy that we need except for Yui. Yui was really feeling herself with the rap, and she embodied what the song needed. She executed it perfectly. I think the energy and the persona she put on is just exactly what the song needs. And I would say it is harder for you to show the vibes and stand out without the rap. But I think Yuju also did a really good job, even though she had like 5 seconds of screen time. She was able to stand out. But the other girls, although they were stable and they were good performers, they were just that and nothing more. I really can't remember a single thing after it was over from them. There was no highlight from the other girls, I would say. Because the song, while they were performing, felt so empty. I don't know if it was because of them or the instrumentals were empty. I don't know if they changed it a little bit, but it felt like they were singing a cappella. And that was not it. That was not it. But yeah, this was my overall thoughts on the performance. But now we're gonna get to the nitpicky part of me and stuff I really want to comment on, because I was really bothered by 2 specific things throughout the performance. One was Sujung's first line. She felt a little offbeat.
24, 36, 5 어디 너와 같이 하고파.
Although the original song has a lot of air on those verses and, you know, breathiness to it, I felt like it was kind of unnecessary for her to do the same, because instead of being a dreamy kind of girl, it came off more as I'm out of breath and I don't know how to place my voice well, and that kind of threw me off a bit. Talking about being out of breath, something that really bothered me was Jeemin during the bridge. She was breathing so much. I do think I got annoyed by it only because we could clearly hear everyone breathing, but while the other girls were performing and I could hear them breathing, it wasn't really bad. But when Jeemin sang the bridge, when you compare it to the original, that is something really small, not that big of a problem, but it was so perceptive to me as an ordinary viewer. While I was watching the first time, I was like, why are you breathing so much, girl? That afterwards, when I watched the episode and she was having trouble with breathing and stamina, I wasn't really surprised because it was so apparent to me during the performance, even though she practiced a lot. Also, talking about Jimin herself, I was kind of disappointed by her. I saw her in Are You Next, and she wasn't my favorite, but I couldn't deny that she had a lot of talent. And I can't help but feel like she showed so much more there. And here she just falls kind of flat. I do think she is debut ready, and there is no way she isn't debuting in this show. But I do think she is lacking some kind of oomph factor to her. I mean, she's not the best vocalist, she's not the best dancer, she's not the best performance. I thought she could have done a lot more with her songs and her parts because she was good, but she was the center. And as a center, she really didn't catch my attention or carry the song as she should. Very, very different if we compare to Fuko or Sebi. Both digested their songs and were crucial for their performance. I don't know, you having a strong center is really important, and Jimin definitely wasn't a strong center. I wasn't satisfied with Whistle overall because all the girls were from Island and they are capable of showing so much more. It felt more like a talent show performance rather than a performance that could potentially decide if you debut or not. So maybe I was just not feeling the desperation and the need to show their best. It kind of felt like they were all doing it mechanically and they weren't paying too much attention to the song itself apart from Yui. But anyways, it was okay. I mean, it's definitely really hard for you to have a horrible performance with girls like these, but with girls like these, I should be having something really memorable and you should be giving me one of the best performances of the show, you know what I mean? I also thought it was a little bit weird that they gave a twerking choreo and everyone was like, oh my gosh, they're twerking. Obviously they didn't say twerking, but when like 90% of the contestants are minors, so I thought that was a little weird. But ending on a high note, I do think the dance break was really good. It was the best out of all of the performances for sure. This dance break didn't feel awkward, it suited the song and it suited them really well. But overall the song felt kind of flat, so I would give it a 3 out of 5. I mean, it was a decent performance, but I wasn't feeling it, I guess. The song really didn't do them justice, especially compared to Panorama, which is just so energetic and much higher level than Whistle. So going on into the first place, obviously we only have now Panorama to talk about. So Panorama is also a really bad song for you to pick for a survival show. Problem with Panorama as a song for a survival show is a little bit different than Bad Boy and Whistle, because Bad Boy and Whistle, the problem is you can't really show off your talents as much because the songs are really chill and you need to have a really specific energy and a really specific delivery to do it well. Whereas Panorama is just technically really hard because the high notes are insane. The dance moves might not be as hard as the other songs, but any iland2 song you just need to be synchronized to a T, because if you do something wrong with those really big moves, everyone is gonna see and it's gonna look terrible. This was a hard song to pull off. And then my main concerns with Panorama as a song and by seeing their performance is the help that the trainees are getting, leadership, because first of all, the trainees ended up lowering like half a step for the song. Obviously it was out of range for all the trainees, but couldn't they have lowered the key of the song right off the bat? Do the trainees not really have a say in it? The lack of help from the mentors, from what we see in the episode, is really sad because the trainees themselves had to figure out how to place their voice in the right manner. And I feel like that could have been disastrous if suddenly they were straining their voice because they're trying to reach these super high notes. So not having them lower the key right off the bat and having them practice, there was no mentor there to check. The lack of help from the mentors was really disappointing, especially when they were given such a hard song. I mean, it's good that none of the girls lost their voice because I was expecting them to lose their voice because they were singing all the time. I wanted to see the vocal coaches giving them tips and teaching them the tricks and how to correctly place their voice so that they sound better while they're singing super high notes. But instead we had to have like one of the older trainees just say, girls, try to place it on the top of your cheeks and smile a lot so that you have a correct placement and the nose doesn't come out, you know, as fragile. But I mean, when you're an idol, you have vocal coaching, so I don't understand why we don't have it here. Apart from that, this was definitely my favorite team, not only because the energy was there, but because the girls that formed a team are just some of my favorites. Sebi was amazing. She was perfect as a center. She showed a really different side from her than what we had seen from Sweet Venom, but she still fit the concept like a glove. She was absolutely the star of the show with her performance, and I'm gonna say she was the best of the night because she was just so freaking good. Her vocals delivered, and the message of the song was also delivered by her perfectly. She was just so good. She was giving me Wonyoung vibe. Wonyoung is one and only. So her being comparable to Wonyoung is insane. We also had Jungkook, who absolutely also carried. She was singing the entire song almost. She had, I don't know, 90% of the song. I wasn't even mad when she fell flat or not able to deliver the high note super well because that girl was singing everywhere all the time, and in a hard song like this, she did really well. More than that, she wasn't shaken up by her mistake because her bridge was awesome and amazing, and you don't see her eyes faltering. You don't see her showing that it was bad, you know? She was still smiling. She was doing everything well. And if it wasn't for her, this team would have had so much trouble with holding everything together, because if the best vocalist of the show couldn't sing all her parts, how would anyone else would be able to? Which kind of makes me think that this song is a setup song, because like if Jungkook had gone to Whistle, it would have been so over. Personally, I wish I would have seen more from Koko because she looked absolutely stunning, did her parts really well and so majestically that you could see she also was a fit for the concept, even though I wouldn't immediately assign her to Panorama. I mean, from baggy jeans to Panorama, there's a big difference, but she was so pretty. Well, she had like 3 seconds, but she devoured in the 3 seconds. And I was also scared for Mai because I do think she would have killed in a girl crush concept, but she did really well here. She showed elegance and sang decently, and she's definitely one of my favorites. I mean, we're definitely gonna debut a visual, and since we are, she should definitely be the one because she helped the team with the method to sing the high notes. She knows how to use her looks. She keeps us captivated. She's mature, and she's able to keep the vibes of the group going, and she's a great dancer and amazing performance. She's on the older side as well, so you just know I will be cheering for her. I'm so biased. But anyways, this performance was actually really good. So Jooin, I hadn't noticed her much until now. It's not a lot of girls, but it's so hard to keep track of all of them, unfortunately, because not all of them shine in all of the performances, and most of them just come and go. But regardless, she was really good here. She was great at dancing, and although I wish the main dancer could have been Koko because I thought Jooin shined on her lead singer parts and we could have seen more from Koko, she was amazing at the dance break. But more importantly, her vocals were also really good, and she stood her ground as the lead vocalist of the team and did really amazing in her parts. So is someone that I see a lot of potential in. I think she's the one that leaves me a big impression every time she's on stage because first of all, she really shines, but she's also really dedicated, immersed, and she always seems to have fun. So it feels like the stage is where she belongs. And although I felt like she was a bit too cutesy for this performance, I'm willing to look past that because she didn't feel misplaced throughout the performance. She was just so immersed, and her look during the dance break was killer. I don't think she was like super important for this performance or a really big role, but her being there is always a good addition because no matter what, having fun. Talking about the dance break, I love how the mood switch was apparent in their faces, especially Sebi. Give us that duality. We love it. We love it. The impact of this performance was out of the chart. It is a more energetic song, so I guess it is a lot easier to leave an impact than Whistle. It is also so much easier for things to go wrong vocally or to seem unthing. So the team energy was crucial and they delivered entirely. And as the judges said in the episode, they were all immersed in the performance and that made it more meaningful. I would say this performance is a 4 out of 5. I was really glad with what I saw considering the level of difficulty. But then again, the song choice, because I'm always like panorama, but considering the level of difficulty, because you know it's a hard choice. So anyways, I think their win was deserved because for me, they did spectacular. So yeah, this is the end of my ranking and my ranting on Island. I'll be doing more videos like this, so if you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day, week, night, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.